Thank you so much, Rafe. That's very inspiring. We have some questions for you actually.
Please.
Maybe in the chat, but right now maybe can I ask, is there any question from the screen, from the floor? ช่วงนี้มีใครอยากถามคำถามไหมคะในห้องที่อยู่ในห้องด้วยกันก่อนค่ะตอนนี้มีคำถามในแชทส่งมาบ้างแล้วนะคะขอคำถามจากในห้องซูมก่อนค่ะมีท่านไหนอยากถามไหมคะเชิญทั้งไทยทั้งอังกฤษได้นะคะ so here Rafe is question for you
Oh, of course. Great questions. Whoever wrote these questions, they're great. You always know good teachers because they ask good questions. So the first question I have is, how do I set up the classroom culture to our students? Well, I do it in a few ways, but I don't do it all on day one. This is very important. Many teachers spend the whole first day just talking at the students, and they bore them, or they write 50 rules on the classroom. You cannot create my classroom in one day. Don't forget, I've done this for 40 years. I have a reputation where students who come to me are already excited to listen to me because so many kids have said, you're going to love Rafe's class. But it wasn't like that 40 years ago. When I first had a lot of my ideas, most of the kids were not listening because my culture is so different than the culture of the street. And people laughed at me. They did. How did I do it? I set up the culture slowly. But we have a mission in my class that everybody learns the first day. And that mission is be nice, work hard. 4 words. Be nice, work hard. And I tell the children, look, you're going to make mistakes in here. Don't worry about it. You're going to forget your homework. You're going to spill the paint. It's okay. We can fix that. But if you're not nice to someone, we have to stop the class. You have to be nice. And they know I'm not a guy who yells and screams, but I'm tough. You see the kids traveling with me. I can have the most brilliant student in the world. If he's not kind to everybody, he is not going on that trip. No way. So I set up the classroom culture slowly, but the most way I do it is through the books we read. Almost all the books we read are about a young protagonist who faces moral dilemmas, about what kind of person he's going to be. And I tell the kids, just as he's deciding, am I honest or dishonest? Am I a good son or a bad son? When I'm playing sports, do I invite the slow, fat kid to be on my team, or do I make fun of the slow, fat kid? These are decisions we make all the time. That's how we set the norms for the students. Right. Now, the second question is about having students who have set against your reasoning and they resist you. Here is what I try and tell everybody. There are students who are going to resist you. There are students, this is why teaching is so hard. You can, I'll tell you a funny story. I actually had this really happened. I had a father who broke into our school and broke in trying to steal computers. He was busting in the doors and stealing computers in the middle of the night out of classrooms, and he was having his children help him. They were helping their father rob the school. So when I'm telling these kids, okay, boys and girls, be honest, well, I'm going to lose that battle. You are not going to, when you have parents who are actively telling their children, don't listen to your teacher. Should you try every day? Of course. But what you must understand is you will not be able to overcome certain parts of society or certain family problems, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Now, there is one thing that I do that this question might be helpful to you. I don't know how long you've been teaching, but I have many, many former students who are adults now who help me. They come and talk to my students. When I have a student who has problems, especially with behavior or seeing the future, and he's not listening to me, I'll have somebody come in, maybe he's 22, 23 years old, he's just finished a wonderful college, he's making a lot of money, and he tells that student, I know how you feel. I've been in your shoes, but you ought to listen to Rafe. He really helped me. I really had problems as a kid, but Rafe didn't give up on me. Give him a chance, and you can be like me. What I do with those kids with the backgrounds is they can't see the finished product. How can they know? He's 11 years old. He knows gangs or violence or drugs. How is he supposed to know when you say, hey, go to college, and no one in his family's ever been to college? He can't know that. So I always try and explain, if you watch a cooking television show and they're making a wonderful pad thai, what they do is they show you the finished pad thai. They show you the noodles and the sauce they use and how delicious it is, and it looks really good. And then they say, now we're going to show you how to make it, but they show you the finished product. What I do with troubled students is I show them the finished product by having them meet other students of mine who had trouble and now they're doing well. And does it always work? No. Do I fail? Yes, all the time. But I have found that my former students, the kids listen to them more than they listen to me. I'm some old white guy, what the hell do I know? But when they meet kids from their streets who are successful, they listen. That's a strategy you might want to use. How do I communicate my reasoning to my students? It's actually not my reasoning. It's all through literature and through the Shakespeare we do. By doing plays and meeting characters who have problems and dilemmas and how they work them out, that's what I do. And there are several books. I don't want to tell you, you have to read the books I read. But the most important book I read with my class, you don't have to read it. And sadly, this book is now being banned in American schools. But it's a book called To Kill a Mockingbird. And To Kill a Mockingbird, which won the Pulitzer Prize, they're now kicking it out of the schools because people on the boards of education think it's a terrible book and it's going to hurt the kids. They're idiots. It's a great book. And what I love about the book is, if you don't know the basic story of To Kill a Mockingbird, it's about a lawyer who lives in a small town of racists. And he's asked to defend a black man who has been accused of raping a woman. He's innocent. And when the lawyer's children ask him, are we going to win? He says, no. But he takes the case anyway. He does the right thing. He loses, but he has set the example for his children. Do the right thing, even if it's an unpopular thing. It's through literature that I teach my children my reasoning. And the Hobart Shakespeareans is my life's work. The Hobart Shakespeareans are these children who every year put on a full Shakespeare play. We spend, I'm not making this up, tens of thousands of hours rehearsing. Just like we do with the reading, the kids don't learn their lines where I say, go home and memorize your lines. They listen to the play. They all get to listen to it. I make a CD for all of them or a digital download. So they listen at home, and you'd be amazed at how fast they learn the lines. And I go through it piece by piece until we put the play together. Because I love music, we add not one, not two, but sometimes 18 all kinds of rock and roll songs and jazz songs and folk songs and quiet songs to help tell the story. It takes a whole year to put it on. It's a lot of fun. The kids were very sad. They were going to do a play this year that we had to postpone because of the pandemic. So what are we doing? We are still rehearsing the lines online, and we are hoping to be able to do it in 2021. But the main thing about the Hobart experience that I want you to know is we don't use costumes. We wear t-shirts and jeans. We don't use fancy props. What we do is we learn language. Because again, when kids learn and understand language, that's what will separate them from more typical students. And I hope that is a bit helpful.
Ref, thank you so much. That's a question from teacher Pavina. Can I see your hand, teacher Pavina?
I don't see anybody.
I'm here.
Okay. Oh, okay. Is that Ref has already answered your question?
Yeah, I would like to say thank you for your answers, and that was very inspiring.
Oh, now I see you. It's very nice to meet you. May I ask, how long have you been teaching?
I've actually been teaching for just a year and a half, approximately. I'm a teacher in Teach for Thailand program, so we have roughly 2 years of teaching. But we're teaching in rural areas and areas that we were dealing with students probably quite similar to yours.
Your English is amazing. May I offer you one more bit of advice?
Sure, I would like to take that.
Don't do this alone. It's so hard. Whether you have a father or mother to talk to, a best friend, a husband, a boyfriend, somebody. If you've liked anything I've said to you, you should know that I am married to the most amazing woman on earth. My wife puts me back together when I've had a bad day. And I'm sure you seem honest. You've had some bad days where things didn't go well, and it's painful. So would you say you've had some bad days? I mean,
yeah, I've been through some of those.
All of us. Listen, I go through bad days all the time. So share your bad days. You're not a bad teacher. It's just a really hard job. But it's a job that I love very much. And I'm very lucky that you are a colleague.
Thank you. You've made me love my job even more. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you คุณ teacher ภวินานะคะเมื่อกี้จาก Teach for Thailand นะคะเป็นคนถามคำถามทั้ง4ข้อเมื่อสักครู่นะคะ so Rev we still have more question for you so this one the questions come from the Thai teacher as well. There are 2 questions. It's from teacher Kanjana. The first question, can we encourage students to read via mobile phone? Or do we just have to encourage students to read by book only? What do you think about reading via mobile phone?
I like the kid to have a book in front of them. And I'm turning on my phone right now because I want to show you something that I'm doing. So it'll take, please give me 1 minute. Here is a book that I'm reading with some young students right now. And here's what it sounds like.
City of Oz. Even with eyes protected by the green spectacles, Dorothy and her friends were at first by the brilliancy of the wonderful
I hope you can
city.
hear that.
The streets were
We can hear that.
And you hear sound effects.
And studded everywhere with sparkling emeralds. They
With
walked
music.
Yes.
Same green marble.
It's amazing what is available. So if the students want to read their phone, I guess it's okay, but I want them to love books. I want them right behind me. You can't see in my screen. I have beautiful books. My students know that I have a huge library. I know that this is not the way things are done today, but I want my students to treasure books. And I don't think you can treasure a phone. I like them to hold the book, to smell the book. Yes, of course, a phone is better than nothing. But since you've asked, I like the book and the words and the wonderful author who wrote it.
Okay, so that's from question from teacher Kanjana. So you encourage to read the real book.
But with me, remember, not on their own, with me. And by the way, for the teacher, if he wants to use the phone, remember what I said. You don't have to listen to me for everything. I'm telling you what I do, but I don't have all the answers.
And the second question from teacher Anupong. During COVID-19 pandemic, how do you conduct teaching and learning?
I do it exactly the same way I did before the pandemic. Every lesson I teach, how do we start? Why are we doing this? Why? Not, okay, boys and girls, open up your math book, open to page 25, and there are 30 problems for you. I don't do that. I don't do it in a regular school, and I don't during the pandemic. I say, kids, it's great to be here. And here's another important thing. How do I conduct teaching? I hope everybody knows that our children, especially children of poverty, are going through terrible times right now. I know that my students, when there is an alcohol problem at home or violence in the home, it has gotten worse now. As everybody is put together, those problems are even worse. So the first thing is, before I go online with them, I leave my problems at home. Step one, I am the happiest, most friendly person they've ever seen. Even if I'm not feeling like that, it's almost like being an actor. Boys and girls, oh my God, it's so good to see you. How y'all doing? Boy, do I have a great lesson for you today. Let me tell you what we're going to do. You're not going to believe this. I have great enthusiasm. And by the way, I will say something like, you're not going to believe our history lesson. Do you know, I couldn't even sleep last night. I was so excited. I'm just so glad you're here. We're going to do reading first. We'll wait till later and I just talk like I'm bursting with excitement. Do I always feel that way? No, sometimes I'm tired. But they're going through so many problems during this pandemic. I feel that I must be the most positive, the most, we can do this. Because I know that some students feel like giving up. They're so sad.
Rafe, so you mean that during COVID-19 pandemic, you still teach your student as normal, or you teach them through online?
Online, but with the same enthusiasm, and always why. Why are we reading this book today? Why are we doing this math? Why are we practicing this music? Not because I said so. If we learn these skills, your life will be better. And we're going through hard times right now. So I'm going to teach you skills that are going to help you get through these hard times, because better times are coming. It's not always going to be like this. You are going to have a good life. And what we do now is going to help your life be better.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So that's from teacher Anupong. Nah? He's in different room, but I think he actually probably heard your answer. So we still have two more questions. Yes. One is from teacher Suvarat. I mean, she was asking about how we can help for educational inequalities.
There is no question in my mind. The biggest problem with the inequality is language. Most of my children, this is the United States, they don't speak English as their first language. So a lot of people think they're stupid. They're not stupid. Maybe they speak Spanish, maybe they speak Vietnamese or Korean. And there are, I'm sorry, even some teachers are racist. And they don't want certain kinds of students in their class. I'm sorry to say that. I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings, but it's true. So how do I make things equal? Language, language, language. My students read so much. And by hearing the English, they speak English better than the kids who grew up speaking English, because they're practicing hours every day. And because they do Shakespeare, they learn to speak in front of an audience. When they go for an interview, the people who interview them are like, wow, they're impressive. They're so confident. It's because of the language they learn. But remember, if we can be honest, a lot of the books we read in school are boring. The school district assigns some boring book, and of course the kids are bored. But I bring classic books in, which I know they're going to love. I see that the next question is about empathy, and that is my favorite question of the night. But somebody said, how can you teach empathy, especially when it's disappearing from the world? It's such a good question. I can give you one example, but you have to do it every day. But I want to tell you a little story that I hope you'll share with the kids, because when I first introduced empathy to my classroom, maybe on the second or third day, and I tell them, this is a big lesson. And because I teach you what empathy means today, it doesn't mean you're going to have it. It doesn't mean you're going to have it in your heart yet. But I want you to think about it. So to teach empathy, I always start the children with this story. And I hope you'll tell this story to your class. Once upon a time, there was a little boy who had a nice mom and dad. And every day at the dinner table, they told him, we want you to do something, a good deed, every day. We want you to be kind to somebody every day. And at dinner, we're going to ask you, what did you do today? And, you know, he would come home and tell about the nice things he did. But one day, they said, okay, what did you do today? And he said, oh, I went to my friend's house. And they said, so? Why is that a good deed? He goes, oh, you don't understand. My friend's parents bought him a very expensive bicycle. He has wanted this bicycle for years, and they saved their money, and he got his bicycle. And the parents go, so why is that good? You don't even know how to ride a bicycle. And the boy said, but I haven't finished. On the first day he rode his bicycle, he crashed his bicycle. The bicycle is ruined. It cannot be fixed. His parents are angry with him because they spent all their money and he's never going to have a bicycle. And he just sits there and cries. And his father goes, I still don't understand why that's a good deed. And the boy says, I cried with him. That's empathy. I cried with him. Kids love that story. And in the literature we read, there are always many examples of empathy. A famous story that you might even know in Thailand is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And the evil rich man, Ebenezer Scrooge, who doesn't care about anybody, who's mean to people, and he doesn't even care the little child who's crippled is going to die until he meets that child. And he learns to love that child, and eventually he saves that child. So through stories that I tell, through literature, and also through things like sports and music, we talk about empathy all the time. For example, if I have a violinist who's a great violinist, and there are other kids who are struggling, can she have the empathy to sit with someone and help and stand in their shoes and understand, yes, you're great, but they're not great. Can you give up some of your time to help others? Does everybody have empathy after they're with my class? No. There are so many examples, like my president, the idiot who doesn't have any empathy for anybody in the world. It's hard to teach that to my class, but I do try very hard through literature and especially through music. Playing music allows people to hear each other, see each other's problems, and work together.
Okay, thank you, Rafe. So that's from Teacher Nopadon. Can I see your hand? Can I see that? That's the Teacher Nopadon, please. Does Rafe answer your question, or you might want to share something on empathy?
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry, I can't turn on my camera because of the connection.
Well, will you go ahead? It's a great question. I hope you will teach your students the story of the little boy who cries with his friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
So where do you teach?
Thank you so much. I'm teaching in Chiang Mai. Actually,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
teach for Thailand, just like Miss Pavina. But I'm teaching up in the mountain.
Yes, we have teacher from group, what we call here, teach for Thailand, and teacher Nopadon and teacher Pavina are part of them. And actually, teacher Nopadon, he's in the north of Thailand, Chiang Mai province. You haven't been there, Rafe. You just been to Bangkok.
Well, you have
Maybe.
to invite me.
Yeah, maybe next time we can see you in real person and we can take you to many regions in Thailand.
I would love that.
You're right.
Yes, well. if you have a chance.
Yes. So the second question also from Nopadon as well. He said, "Is there any student that you failed to teach, and how do you deal with them, and what were the stories like?"
You don't have enough time. If I started talking about all my failures, we would be here for months. Let me just share with you my most recent failure. And it has made me very sad today. I have been very sad all day today. But I haven't brought that to this session because you don't need my sadness. This is what I'm trying to tell you. But since you asked, let me tell you something that just happened in the last couple of weeks. I have a boy, very talented, very smart, and incredibly handsome. He looks like a movie star. All the girls love him. I've worked with him for years. He has starred in Shakespeare plays. He has traveled to many cities. I have bought him clothing out of my own pocket. I bought him musical instruments. I paid for his lessons. I have probably spent, I'm not making this up, probably $10,000 on him over the last 6 years. He got to go on the England trip. He has a very difficult family. There are a lot of criminals in his family. He has people in his family who went to jail and stuff like that. And he just told me the other day he doesn't want to be a part of my program anymore. He's got other things to do. After all these years of working with him, it's like, bye-bye. He's not helping anybody else. He's not giving back to the program. He's letting down some of his friends who are depending on him in the band, in our play, as a friend, and he's just moving on. It's killing me, absolutely killing me. I can't even tell you. But here's what I do think about. Am I sad? You bet. But I can't show that to the kids who are still in class. They don't need that. Okay? Yes, this kid has hurt me. If I can explain it, it's kind of like, let's say there's a girl who dates a guy, and the guy's really terrible and really hurts her. Mean guy. And then I see the girl, and I walk up and say, "You seem really interesting. Would you like to have lunch?" And she goes, "I don't want to have lunch with you. You're a guy. You're a jerk." And I'm going, wait a minute. What did I do? I didn't do anything. So yes, I'm sad about this boy, but if I bring that sadness and I'm grouchy with my students now, they didn't do anything wrong. Not their fault. So I have to keep that sadness outside the classroom. But it happens, and it's very painful. And it's a very important question. I was telling the other teacher before, don't do this alone. So when I was really sad about this boy, I had a long dinner and talked with my wonderful wife, and she's got my mind straight now. It's good to have people, who love you unconditionally. So, but it's hard.
Okay, I believe that all teachers have that moment, when you feel let down. But I think but the most important thing is that you have to be the one who keep trying. And I think so that's a journey. I think it's a journey.
The first thing I said tonight is we have to set the example. We tell children, don't give up. So if I give up, how can I tell them not to give up?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's a keyword. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Never.
Yeah,
Never.
right. So that from Nopadon in Chiang Mai. So do you have anything more to say?
Thank you so much for the inspiring stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, we still have two more questions.
Sure.
One is from Anupong, teacher Anupong. So how to create more critical thinking skills to students?
Yes, wonderful. You don't know this, but my real field of study is mathematics. When I was a young man, I thought I was going to be like a college math professor. So I love critical thinking skills. What I don't do is most teachers who are teaching math say, okay, today we're going to learn how to multiply, and I'm going to give you 500 multiplication problems, which I hate. My advice always is, if a child can do 10, why make him do 100? And if he can't do 10, why in the world would you make him do 100? There's no point in doing that. What I do, and I'm going to give you a name, and for the team here, if you don't remember this, if you email me, you can send this to your teachers. There was a math teacher in America who I admire very much, and her name is Marcy Cook, MarcyCook. And she has a website, Marcy Cook Math, excuse me, MarcyCookMath.com, MarcyCookMath.com. And what she does, she's the one who taught me about using individual digits. But what she has for every grade level, she has these cards. They're not expensive. And let's say, for example, a child is learning subtraction. Instead of giving 10 subtraction problems, there are a bunch of problems on one page with blank squares, and you have to use the 10 digits and fill them all over the card until the puzzle is worked out perfectly. Instead of doing problems in order, the child looks at the card and says, okay, now wait a minute. That says blank plus 5 is greater than 8. Well, there could be several numbers I could put there. And you have to keep trading numbers until it all works out. The kids learn, instead of doing one problem at a time, they're looking at several problems that must be solved collectively. And she has cards for kids that are just learning to count to 5. And she has cards that are doing advanced algebra and geometry. My students love doing them. And then I see we have a question about bullying.
Bullying, yeah, that's from teacher Supacharamani. Yeah. So that was one you want to get your advice on bullying problems among children.
Well, there are a couple of things. First of all, we do talk about it a lot. And we always call my room the safe haven. Nobody will ever be bullied in my class, especially by me. And I'm tough. But even teachers can be bullies. They can be. And it's wrong. So we talk about it. And the kids know if anybody is ever bullying them, they come to me. But I will tell you a sad thing. I know students who have been bullied. And they go to, let's say, school administrators or other teachers. And the teachers say, oh, you've got to, grow up and handle it yourself. Because sometimes the teachers don't like to be involved. And it's wrong. I had a student last year who during lunch, kids were stealing his lunch. And he couldn't stop it. They were stealing his lunch. He brought a little bag of food and these big kids would steal the food. Well, we called in the administrators, and what my students know is we can go to Rafe and I will call parents, and I don't care if they get mad at me or anything. And a kind of a funny thing has happened. Even the gang members at our schools don't bully my students. And they know that if they do, they're going to deal with me. And they don't do it. So that's another kind of thing. It's like having a good parent around. But it's a constant problem. And of course, the other thing that my students do is prevention. There are places in the school where bullying happens more than others, and they avoid those areas.
That's really great advice. I think you give a practical advice to the teacher who are facing a problem with bullying among children. Okay, we still have two more questions that posing to you.
I see the one about strict.
Yeah.
First of all, I want your teachers to know I am the strictest teacher you have ever seen. I am really strict. I mean, for example, if you were to watch a Shakespeare rehearsal, it is silent in that room when students are rehearsing. If somebody off stage was talking or not paying attention, I walk over to that student and I say, "Excuse me, do you see that she's rehearsing? Are you telling me that she doesn't matter?" And I'll go right in there and I'll go, "Does she matter?" And the child will go, "That's right, because in our room, everybody matters." So please understand, I'm incredibly strict, but here's the key. I'm not mean, and there's a difference. Strict is good. Mean, unfair, not good. Let me give you an example. I see this all the time. Some child is misbehaving, and the teacher goes, "That's it. Nobody gets to play today because John was bad." Kids hate that. The kids are saying, "Wait a minute. John robbed the bank. Why am I going to jail?" So remember, teachers, kids don't mind a tough teacher. They hate an unfair one. If you hear kids talk about me, almost always they say, "Rafe's fair. The punishment has to fit the crime." If I have a child and we're playing baseball and he's being mean to his teammates and yelling at his teammates, his punishment is he doesn't get to play baseball that day. Now, he can play baseball tomorrow. He'll get another chance. But for that day, he's out. Now, he still gets to have an art lesson because he was bad during baseball. The punishment fits the crime. That's very, very important.
Okay, right. Okay, so you think that, I mean, being strict at the same time, you also still can be loved from students.
Absolutely. And I'm really strict. You have no idea. I don't yell and scream, but I will tell you something. I'm not going to swear because I don't want to offend people, but I will tell you a very funny story, but I promise not to swear. But I hope you can understand. I hope Dr. Me will help me. Many years ago, a famous magazine was watching me teach, and the reporter was amazed that my students are very quiet and they pay attention. And the reporter talked to a little girl in the back of the room, and this is an older reporter. He fell on the floor laughing, and I walked over. He was laughing, and I said, "What's so funny? What did this kid say?" And he talked to this little girl, and he said, "You know, Rafe has a very soft voice, but you guys really pay attention. What's the secret?" And this little girl said, "Well, you have to understand, Rafe doesn't yell and scream, but everybody knows, don't F with Rafe."
Okay, right. So the strict teacher can sit back and relax right now. Okay, so there are one more question I think is quite important during this time of crisis as well.
I see it. Hey, you're talking about me. Look, I'm an old man. Okay, I'm almost 66 years old. I'm, turning 66 in a few weeks. I got 4 kids. I got 2 grandkids. I'm like you. I'm not as good with IT as some of these 20-year-olds. I'm not. I'm pretty good, but I'm not great. Here's what I do. I ask my younger students to help me all the time. Again, we're the role model. What's wrong with asking a question? I'm a teacher. I don't have to know everything. I always tell my students, when you have a problem, ask me for help. don't be afraid to ask for help. There was a film made about me a few years ago, a documentary, and there was a wonderful moment when a boy said, last year I asked the teacher a question, and she said, we've been over this. You should have been listening. And he said, I was listening. I just didn't get it. She said, in Rafe's class, Rafe will explain something 500 times, but he will always answer questions. So since I tell kids, ask for help, I will tell my students, you know what, kids? I'm not really very good at this. I need to ask for help. And I bring in someone, another teacher or one of my students who knows more than I do. That's being a great role model. When we don't know something, we go to someone who does. So I use my lack of knowledge to teach an important lesson. I ask for help all the time. That's what I would do.
Oh, so that's a teacher from different room that I think they all get the answer. So how about this room? You have any sort of live questions that you like to ask Rafe? We still have about 10 minutes to go before, I know it's quite late in the US and it's almost lunchtime in Thailand actually. Yeah. Is there any question from the floor? You can raise your hand. Even you can ask in Thai. ถามภาษาไทยได้นะคะหรือภาษาอังกฤษก็ได้ค่ะ มีไหมคะอาจารย์ เห็นอาจารย์พิมพามีคำถามไหมคะ เห็นอาจารย์พิมพายิ้มเชิญค่ะ
ก็อยากทราบข้อมูลว่าครูเรศสอนเป็นประจำชั้นหรือว่าแค่ประจำวิชาสังคม
ค่ะ
คือเพื่อจะให้ได้คุณครูได้มาพูดคุยกับคุณครูว่าแนวการสอนแบบนี้ประสบความสำเร็จอย่างไรค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
ครูพิมพาจากที่ไหนคะ
จากจังหวัดชุมพรค่ะ
อ๋อจังหวัดชุมพรนะคะ Okay, so this is teacher Pimpa. She's from the south of Thailand, and and she's asking whether, Rafe, do you teach, as a subject, or you teach all subjects, and what are your key success in being, teacher so many subjects?
I was an elementary school teacher for 32 years. I taught many of the grades, but mostly fifth grade. And yes, in the United States, I had to teach all the subjects. What I did was every year, I would focus on one subject to get better at it. I was always a good math teacher. That was my field of study. Because I loved to read, I was a good English teacher. I was not a good science teacher. So for my first few years, when I taught science, it wasn't very good. What did I do? By the way, there's a funny story. My daughter is a scientist. She's a doctor. And she watched me teach a science lesson and told me I was the worst teacher she had ever seen. So embarrassing to have my daughter yell at me. But anyway, I started watching great science teachers. I found and then I became a better science teacher by learning from them. So over many years, I became good at teaching all the subjects. For the last 5 years, I have left my school district and teach my program privately. I still work with very poor children. I do not work with rich, successful children. But my fields that I'm best at right now, since you're all about equality, it's about getting these kids to college because they don't have an equal opportunity. Our middle school kids and high school kids in America, if you want to go to college, you can pay for lessons in how to take exams and stuff. And it costs thousands and thousands of dollars. My students don't have that. So I do a lot of work teaching high school kids about college prep, about interviews, and music. I have 13 music teachers who work for me, and my students are really good. They're very talented with music. But when they play music, think what they're really learning. Listening, working with other people, making mistakes and fixing your mistakes. We say children can't concentrate anymore. They don't focus. You show me a musician, I'll show you someone who can focus. You have to. So, but I guess the thing that I'm best known for is the teaching of Shakespeare. And a lot of movie stars come to our plays and famous celebrities and stuff. And it's kind of fun.
Yep. So, I mean, so we have so many outstanding teachers here as well, and school principals too. I saw Dr. Supachok. He's a school principal in Chiang Rai. So I think you might have some questions for Rafe. Please, Dr. อาจารย์สุภโชคเชิญค่ะ
ก็ช่วยถามให้หน่อยนะครับมีข้อแนะนำสำหรับผู้บริหารโรงเรียนในการที่จะสนับสนุนส่งเสริมให้ครูที่มุ่งมั่นทำงานแบบนี้ได้ยังไงบ้างในไอเดียของเขา
โอเคได้ค่ะ so we this is a school principal. His name is Supachok. He's in Chiang Rai in the north of Thailand, and so we also have many school principal during this meeting as well. So Rafe, this question to you. So what do you think school principal can play a role in supporting teachers in teaching?
I have to ask the principal one question. I so admire you because I could never do your job ever. I don't know how anybody could be crazy enough to be a principal. When I meet principals, on their desk, they always have blood pressure medication and headache pills because all day long, they deal with angry parents, angry teachers, naughty children, and I have fun all day. So I just want to say I really admire you, but I'm not as crazy as you are because I don't know how anybody can be a principal. I really applaud you. But when my best principals, I'll tell you what they've done. My best principals know that if you have a really good teacher who maybe is a little bit different, they let him be a little bit different. My worst principals were the ones who said everybody must do everything exactly the same way, at exactly the same time. And I always tell people, when you go out to the parking lot, all the cars start with a key, but a different key. And I'm not saying you should let a teacher do anything, because you shouldn't. The teacher must show you that there's value to what he's doing. But I will tell you that when I started my Shakespeare program almost 40 years ago, my principal did everything he could to stop it. He hated my staying after school. He hated the music, even though my students had the highest test scores in the school, were the best behaved kids in the school. Everybody started, but he didn't like it. I thought that was bad. The guy who replaced him came to me and said, "How can I help you, Rafe? Do you need a bigger room? Do you need a place to put your instruments?" That's a great principle. And I'll tell you something funny. Some of the teachers hated him. And they said to him, "How come you're so nice to Rafe? How come he gets a special room?" And he said, "If you will come to work on Saturday for free and you do all the extra hours he does, you can have a room too." And I was forever grateful to him because he supported me when I was young and foolish, and he saw my potential. And that was my best principle.
Okay. So thank you so much, Rafe. Though, so that's, I mean, Rafe said that he admires school principal นะก็เขาก็ชื่นชมนะคะผอ.นะคะว่าทำงานหนักมากนะคะเป็นผอ.ไม่ง่ายนะคะ Rafe ไม่กล้าเป็นนะคะเรฟไม่กล้าเป็นผอ.ค่ะก็ so I think I can take one more question, one last question from the floor. มีคำถามหนึ่งนะคะสามารถถามได้นะคะมีใครอยากถามเป็นอีกท่านสุดท้ายไหมคะก่อนที่เราจะจบการประชุมในวันนี้นะคะบอกว่าเป็น2ชั่วโมงที่คิดว่าคุ้มค่ามากๆนะคะแล้วก็เดี๋ยวกส.ก็จะมีการตัดวิดีโอนะคะแล้วก็อาจจะใส่ซับภาษาไทยให้ด้วยนะคะเผื่อว่าคุณครูบางท่านเนี่ยอยากไปดูต่อนะคะรวมถึงคำถามต่างๆเนี่ยเราก็จะมีการตอบให้นะคะเพื่อที่ได้เอาไปมีเทคนิคมีทิปเยอะมากนะคะที่เรฟให้ในวันนี้นะคะมีคำถามไหมคะ Is there any questions that you would like to ask?
I have a question, please. I'm Rosie from the south, from Songkhla. Yep. I would like to know about how you manage the time about the students who are not your advisee, actually, because actually when we teach Prathom 4, 5, and 6, and we do not be the advisor, and we cannot do like such a thing that you told us to like talk to them, read them the story, or like stay with them all the time,
Right.
check. Yeah. So many parents ask me to like, okay, can you teach my student to be able to speak English? And I respond back to them like, okay, if you want your student to be able to speak English, like my son or people in my family, you have to take your son or take your kid to be in my home. I just kidding to them, but in the meaning, it's a
very good question.
I mean like that.
Let me give you an answer. You might not like my answer, but this is what I did when I was beginning, because I had the same questions. One problem I had also is other parents from other classrooms wanted me to help their children with English because they thought I cared more than their child's teacher, if that makes sense. What I did, and you don't have to do this, is I would start a reading club. And what I would do is maybe I would do the club for 1 hour before school, or 1 hour at lunch, or 1 hour after school. It's an option. You tell the kids, if you would like to come and learn English and learn to be a better reader, I can give 1 hour a day. But here's the beautiful thing. I'm doing you a favor. If you see, like if there's a kid who's being very badly behaved in your class, there's not that much you can do. But if you're doing a club and the parents and kids say, if I come to my room, I'm going to listen. I'm not there to be silly or fool around. We've got work to do. That's the beautiful thing about my Shakespeare. It's voluntary. And that means if somebody is there just to hang out, they're out and they know it. But that's what I would do. I would start with one club, maybe if you don't have every day, maybe 3 times a week, but do something you love with them. If it's a book you love or any activity, share your heart with them because that makes it fun. When I do Shakespeare and reading, it's not even work for me. I like it so much. You know, I hope you can tell just talking to you guys. I love talking to teachers. This isn't work for me. That's what I would do. One club start.
Oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good idea. Thank you for that. It means like if I have like 20 minutes per time, I can split like in the morning for 20 minutes or after lunch for 10 minutes or after
Look, you know your situation, but you can make it work. You can. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Ray, but still one more question from different room. If you so I think one last question that we're gonna ask you. So that's from teacher Manasapon Nin Aim. I think she wants to get your tips. So how you support kids who are come from broken family, you know, who are like so how do you support them? How best teacher can support them?
Right. The most important thing I can do in my classroom, by far, is this is a place where the kids have to feel safe. I can't tell you how many kids have told me they come to that class because they feel happy. I've had kids tell me they have a stomach ache at home, or they have a stomach ache after school. They're like at middle school or high school, but they still come back because it feels good in there. And let's remember, what are kids most afraid of? Besides the broken home, they're not afraid of us. They're afraid of being made fun of by their peers. These are the fears of children. So the best thing you can do is create a classroom where I know you have a broken home. I'm not going to talk to you about it. It's not my business. If you want to talk to me about your problems, I'm here to listen, but I'll never ask. What I am here to do, you come to this room, I'm your friend, always, 24 hours a day. Here's my email, here's my cell phone. You need to talk, I'm right here. And sometimes that one person who says it's going to be okay can help that child. That you can do. Be that one person.
Okay, I think, thank you so much, Rafe. It's been 2 hours of fire, I think, and inspiration. So we are very grateful to you, and I think that
grateful to all the teachers. Thank you so much for spending some time.
You would like to have last word with them before we close the session?
Well, now that I've come, you all have a homework assignment. You've got to come to Los Angeles and let's have dinner and talk about teaching.
Yeah, we would love to see your experience, and yeah, that would be great.
Well, let's make that happen. Everybody start saving their money for a plane ticket.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you, Rafe. It has been so inspiring. I think amidst this crisis, the role of teacher are so important. And teacher who are participating today had gained lots of tips and techniques and how to support the students best. But above all, I think they have gained inspiration. So we only wish you could have been here in person. So
next time.
Yeah, indeed. So thank you so much, and may I ask all of you to give Rafe a mini heart, maybe ขอให้ทุกท่านให้ mini heart ของกับ Rafe หน่อยนะคะเป็นการขอบคุณผ่านจอนะคะอาจจะไม่ได้เช็คแฮนด์กันนะคะแต่ว่าให้ mini heart. Okay, so Rafe, thank you so much. So we will keep in touch, and we hope to invite you again next time.
Have a good lunch.
Thank you. ขอบพระคุณทุกท่านนะคะ